Welcome to Silent Queen's Reckoning. I'm so glad you could join us today. Now let's dive right into the story.
Chapter 1. The woman who had lost her house, her savings, and her marriage watched her husband kiss another man's wife over a $300 bottle of wine. Claire Bennett did not scream. She did not throw the wine. She sat in the shadowed corner booth of a French restaurant in downtown Chicago, stared at the man who had emptied her life with a signature, and waited until the billionaire husband of his mistress sat down across from her. "You are either a private investigator," the stranger said, "or you are the wife he thought was too broken to fight." Claire lifted her eyes. "Soon-to-be ex-wife," she said. "Good," the man replied. "Then you are exactly who I need." Across the dining room, Martin Keller laughed as if he had not destroyed anyone. He sat near the fireplace, handsome in a navy suit Claire knew he had bought with money that used to be in their emergency account. His hand rested over the hand of Vanessa Albright, a blonde woman in a cream silk dress with diamonds at her throat and a wedding ring still visible on her finger. Vanessa was 40, polished, and expensive in the effortless way of women who had never needed to ask a bill to wait. She was the wife of Dominic Albright, founder of Albright Urban Group, one of the largest private development firms in the Midwest. Her photographs appeared in charity magazines beside hospital wings, museum galas, and smiling captions about generosity. Claire had seen those photographs during sleepless nights, after Martin's lies began to split open. Vanessa did not look generous now. She leaned close to Martin, smiling into his face as he tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture made Claire's stomach clench. He used to do that to her, in grocery store lines, at bus stops, in their kitchen when they were too broke for restaurants, but still rich in the stupid faith that love could hold. That was before Martin taught her that some men call your trust a partnership until they find a way to monetize it. 3 months earlier, Martin had come home pale and shaking. He said his consulting business was dying. He said a logistics client had refused payment, a creditor was threatening court, and if they did not move quickly, everything Claire had built would be swallowed by debt. He sat at their kitchen table with his head in his hands while she reheated soup neither of them ate. "It is just a protection agreement," he told her. "A lawyer drafted it. It separates your assets from mine before the creditors come. I am trying to protect you, Claire." He said protect so many times the word began to sound holy. Claire was 32, a forensic accounting manager at a regional audit firm, and famous among her colleagues for finding numbers that tried to hide. She had traced missing inventory through 3 warehouses, exposed a vendor kickback scheme inside a hospital network, and once found a $2 million tax liability because one assistant had used the wrong lunch code for 7 months. But she had not audited her own husband. Love had made him the one account she did not reconcile. She signed. The document was not an asset protection agreement. It was a postnuptial waiver. By the time Claire's friend at the courthouse called to warn her a divorce filing had appeared under her name, Martin had already moved half their savings, secured the house under his separate entity, and informed her by email that she had agreed to waive all marital claims. The email began with, "I know this feels sudden. Sudden. As if betrayal had tripped and fallen into paperwork. Claire lost $68,000 in savings, her claim to the house she had helped renovate, and 6 years of believing Martin was flawed, but decent. Then she found Vanessa. Not through tears. Through ledgers. Martin's new business account had received strange deposits from a consulting entity called Silverline Strategy. Silverline had no website, no staff, and no filings that made sense. Its registered address led to a mailbox service. Its payment schedule matched Albright Urban Group's internal vendor cycles, which Claire found through public lien filings and one careless metadata trace on an invoice PDF. That was why she was in the restaurant. She expected to watch Martin and Vanessa long enough to confirm the affair. She did not expect Dominic Albright to find her first. Dominic sat with a thick gray envelope on the table between them. He was 45, tall, broad-shouldered, and composed with the cold restraint of a man who had spent years negotiating with people too wealthy to be impressed. His dark hair was threaded with silver at the temples. His black overcoat looked custom. His face revealed nothing, except perhaps the exhaustion of someone who had discovered betrayal and decided grief could wait. Claire glanced at the envelope. What is that? Proof that my wife and your husband did not stop at adultery. Claire's fingers tightened around her water glass. How much? Dominic watched her carefully. At least $2.6 million from my company. Possibly more. Claire's face did not change, but something behind her ribs went quiet. Martin had not only stolen from her, he had used the money she lost as practice. Dominic slid the envelope closer. Page 4. Claire opened it. The first document was a wire confirmation from an Albright Urban Group operating account to Silverline Strategy LLC. $480,000. Approved by Vanessa Albright under Legacy Signatory Authority. The second page showed Silverline's registered agent. Martin Keller. Claire read it twice. The restaurant noise faded until all she heard was the soft crackle of the fireplace and the sound of Martin laughing across the room. How long? She asked. 16 months, Dominic said. She turned a page. Silverline invoices are too clean. Meaning? Meaning Martin did not design them alone. He is sloppy when he panics. These are not sloppy. Dominic's eyes sharpened. Vanessa was Albright's first finance director. She knows my systems. Claire looked across the room. Vanessa lifted her wine glass, smiling as if the world had been built for her amusement. Why come to me? Claire asked. Dominic leaned back. Because I need someone who can trace the fraud without warning half my own company. My CFO is Vanessa's brother. My accounts payable lead owes her a favor. My board still thinks of her as the woman who helped me build Albright Urban from nothing. And you think I will help because I hate Martin? No, Dominic said. I think you will help because you know exactly where numbers bleed when a liar cuts them. Claire said nothing. Across the room, Martin stood and helped Vanessa into her coat. He bent close to whisper something in her ear. Vanessa smiled, then touched his cheek with 2 fingers, intimate enough to wound, careful enough to deny. Dominic followed Claire's gaze. There is one complication, he said. There usually is. To give you immediate legal standing inside Albright Urban, I need you tied to my marital asset review. I can appoint you as a consultant, but Vanessa can challenge access before we get the full records. If you are my spouse, even temporarily, you can petition for joint review of marital business interests and act as my interim finance officer with board notice. Claire looked back at him slowly. You are suggesting marriage. Civil marriage, he said. Paper only. Courthouse tomorrow morning. Strict contract. No romantic expectations. No claim to your personal assets. No claim to mine. Full legal protections. You get full forensic access. I get clean evidence. She almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because 2 days earlier she had been legally discarded by a man who stole her savings. Now a man worth hundreds of millions was offering her a marriage as a weapon. What do I get? She asked. Dominic did not pretend the question was rude. A salary equal to a senior crisis CFO. Full reimbursement of your stolen marital funds if our recovery action proves Martin used Albright money to enrich himself. Legal coverage, independent counsel of your choosing, and evidence strong enough to make sure your ex-husband cannot hide behind the agreement he tricked you into signing. Claire closed the envelope. I have one condition. Name it. No filtered access. No executive summaries. No assistant bringing me approved files. I get bank records, vendor ledgers, emails, contracts, payroll, expense reimbursements, account permissions, archived backups, and board minutes for the last 4 years. If one person blocks me, I shut down the review and walk. Dominic studied her with the faintest shift of respect. Agreed. Second condition. You said one. I discovered my husband with your wife. I am allowed to revise. For the first time, his mouth almost curved. Go on. If Vanessa calls me poor, bitter, jealous, or replaceable in any room where I am working, I want permission to answer with documents. You will have more than permission. Claire looked again at Martin. He was buttoning his coat with the smooth confidence of a man who believed every woman he had damaged was behind him. Courthouse opens at 9, Dominic said. Claire picked up the envelope. Then do not be late. Chapter 2. The civil ceremony took 12 minutes. Claire wore a gray wool coat over a black dress she had not slept in. Dominic wore the same dark suit from the restaurant, pressed as if betrayal were a scheduled meeting. The clerk looked from one serious face to the other and did not ask whether anyone wanted photographs. 2 witnesses signed from the hallway. When Claire wrote her new legal name, Claire Albright, the pen felt less like romance than a scalpel. Clean. Necessary. Sharp. Outside the courthouse, snow dusted the steps. Claire took a picture of the certificate and sent it to Martin. Her message was short. You were right. The courthouse was useful. He called 13 seconds later. She let it ring. Dominic stood beside the black car waiting at the curb. That was efficient, he said. Forensic accountants like clean dates. And dramatic messages? Only when they are supported by documentation. His driver opened the door. Claire did not get in immediately. One more thing, she said. Dominic looked at her. Do not confuse this with trust. I do not. I am not on your side because you are wronged. I am on the side of the records. If they make you look bad too, I will say so. Dominic's eyes held hers. That is exactly why I chose you. 20 minutes later, they arrived at Albright Urban Group's headquarters, a 42-story glass tower facing the Chicago River. The lobby was all limestone floors, steel lines, and controlled light. It did not shout wealth. It assumed wealth would recognize itself. Employees turned as Dominic entered. They looked at him first, then at Claire, then at the plain courthouse folder in her hand. Whispers started before they reached the elevator. Dominic did not slow. Main conference room, he told his assistant. All department heads, 10 minutes. The assistant, a severe woman named Marion Price, looked at Claire with professional shock. All department heads, sir? Yes. And Mrs. Albright? Dominic paused. The lobby seemed to hold its breath. This is Mrs. Albright, he said. Claire Albright. She is also interim chief financial officer with full crisis authority effective immediately. Someone dropped a pen at reception. Claire saw the moment the room recalculated her. Yesterday, she had been the cheated wife in a corner booth. Today, she was walking into the building that funded the affair. The conference room filled with uneasy faces. Claire stood beside Dominic at the head of the table while employees settled into leather chairs, checked phones, and avoided eye contact. She recognized several names from the documents Dominic had given her in the car. Evan Rourke, CFO. Vanessa's younger brother. Smooth hair, expensive glasses, a face trying too hard to look bored. Paula Stein, head of accounts payable. Tight mouth. 2 unexplained retention bonuses in 18 months. Calvin Moss, procurement director, nervous hands. 3 vendor approvals tied to Silverline. Marion Price, executive assistant. Watchful, unreadable. Dominic opened the meeting. As of this morning, Claire Albright has full authority over finance, vendor payments, and internal audit. All vendor disbursements above $10,000 are frozen pending review. All department heads will surrender system tokens and access credentials to IT within the hour. Any attempt to delete, alter, or remove company records will result in immediate termination and referral to counsel. Evan Rourke laughed once. It was a bad choice. Dominic, with respect, this is absurd. You got married this morning and handed finance authority to a stranger? Claire looked at him. Not a stranger. A forensic accountant. You have no history with this company. That is the point. Evan's jaw tightened. My sister still holds marital interests in Albright assets. She has rights. Claire placed the marriage certificate, Dominic's authorization, and a board emergency resolution draft on the table. Your sister has residual marital claims currently under review. She does not have operational authority. You do, for now. That can change by noon. Evan leaned back. Are you threatening me? No. I am giving you a deadline politely. Paula Stein crossed her arms. We cannot just hand over passwords without process. Claire turned to her. You processed 12 payments to Silverline Strategy under project codes that did not exist in the corresponding construction calendar. Paula's face went blank. The room went still. Claire continued. I need your access tokens, vendor backup files, approval logs, and archived emails for the last 48 months. If you prefer to wait for process, outside counsel can stand behind you while IT locks your account. Paula looked at Dominic. Dominic said nothing. That silence did more than any threat. Within 40 minutes, Claire had a temporary office, 3 monitors, 2 legal pads, a secure drive, and passwords to systems that had not expected daylight. By noon, she had found the first pattern. Silverline Strategy was not one vendor. It was a door. Money left Albright Urban under consulting, market research, neighborhood impact studies, minority subcontractor outreach, and rush feasibility reports. The invoices looked different enough to pass a tired reviewer, similar enough to show they came from the same hand. Claire mapped dates against actual project milestones. Most of the build services never happened. The few that did were copied from old reports and resubmitted under new names. By 4, she found the second pattern. After Silverline received money, it split funds into 3 streams. One to an account tied to Martin Keller's consulting firm, one to an account under Vanessa's private foundation, and one to a property holding company registered in Florida under Evan Rourke's college roommate. Claire sat back slowly. It was not an affair with theft attached. It was a theft ring with an affair attached. At 7, Dominic appeared in her doorway carrying 2 containers of Thai food. You did not eat, he said. I forgot. That happens? When fraud is organized enough to be interesting. He set 1 container on her desk. How bad? Claire opened a spreadsheet on the center monitor. Bad enough that your wife's defense attorney will bill by the emotional damage. Dominic's face did not move. Total? Confirmed, 1.9 million. Probable, 3.4. Exposure, closer to 5 if Evan's side channel is real. His eyes went colder. Evan, do not confront him. He sat at my table for Thanksgiving. Then he knows where you keep the knives. Do not confront him until I lock the drawer. Dominic looked at her for a moment. Was that a metaphor? A warning. He nodded once. Understood. Claire ate 3 bites of noodles and returned to the records. At 9:16 p.m., Martin called again. This time she answered on speaker without looking away from the screen. Claire, he said, breathless. What the hell is going on? Did you marry him? Yes. Are you insane? No. You cannot just marry some rich bastard to punish me. Dominic looked up from the chair across the office. Claire highlighted a suspicious transfer. Martin, I did not marry him to punish you. Then why? Access. There was silence. She could almost hear him understanding too late that she was not crying in a motel room, not begging for the house, not staring helplessly at the postnup he tricked her into signing. She was inside the money. Claire, he said, his voice lowering. Listen to me. Vanessa is dangerous. You do not know who you are dealing with. I know exactly who I am dealing with. No, you do not. Dominic is using you. Probably. Dominic's eyebrow lifted, Claire continued. But he gave me passwords. You gave me lies. That makes him more useful today. Martin swore under his breath. You need to stop digging. Her fingers stilled. Why? Because you will get hurt. By whom? He said nothing. Claire smiled faintly. That is what I thought. She hung up. Dominic watched her. You are very calm for someone being threatened by her ex-husband. He stole my savings with paperwork. He thinks fear sounds like concern. She turned back to the monitor. Now be quiet. I found another account. Chapter 3, Vanessa Albright, arrived the next morning wearing white. Not soft white. War white. A tailored coat, pearl earrings, a silk blouse, and red lipstick sharp enough to sign documents by itself. She walked through the lobby with Evan Rourke at her side and 2 attorneys behind her, smiling at employees as if she still owned their loyalty. Claire watched from the glass wall of the finance floor. Dominic stood beside her. She wants an audience, Claire said. She always does. Give her one. He looked at her. Why? Because people who perform power often reveal where it is fake. 5 minutes later, Vanessa entered the main conference room to find Dominic at the head of the table, Claire seated to his right, outside counsel on the video screen, and department heads lining both walls. Vanessa's smile flickered, only for a second. Then she recovered. "Dominic," she said warmly, as if walking into her husband's company with lawyers were a brunch disagreement. "This has gone far enough." Her eyes moved to Claire. "And you must be the new wife." The room tightened around the insult. Claire did not react. "Claire Albright," she said, "interim CFO." "How efficient. Yesterday you were Martin's discarded wife. Today you are sitting in my company." Dominic's hand curled against the table. Claire spoke before he could. "Your company?" Vanessa's smile sharpened. "I helped build this place before you knew how to read a balance sheet. That may explain why the balance sheet is bleeding." Someone near the wall looked down. Vanessa's eyes hardened. "Be careful." Claire opened a folder. "I am always careful. That is why I found Silverline Strategy, Keystone Civic Advisory, North Pier Market Research, and the Florida Holding Company tied to your brother's college friend." Evan shifted. Vanessa did not look at him. "You have no authority to discuss my personal financial matters in front of employees. These are company financial matters. They are accusations. They are transactions." Claire slid 4 pages across the table. "Accusations are emotional. Transactions are dated." Vanessa did not touch the pages. One of her attorneys did. He read the first page, and his expression changed. Vanessa saw it. Her cheek twitched. "This woman is not qualified to run a company of this size." "True," Claire said. "I am not here to run it. I am here to find what you buried in it." Vanessa leaned forward. "Dominic, are you really going to let a woman you married for revenge humiliate your family in your own boardroom?" Claire watched him. It was a useful test. Dominic's voice was level. "My family is not being humiliated by Claire finding fraud. My family was humiliated by the fraud." Vanessa's eyes flashed. "You would choose her over me?" He looked at his wife, and for the first time Claire saw the wound beneath the restraint. "You chose Martin Keller over this company. I chose myself after years of being ignored." "With stolen vendor payments?" The room went silent. Vanessa's nostrils flared. She turned back to Claire, deciding the easier target was the woman she believed had less armor. "Let me tell you what will happen," Vanessa said softly. "Dominic will use you until the mess is contained. Then he will send you away with a check and a thank you. Men like him do not marry women like you unless something has gone wrong." Claire looked at the documents, then at Vanessa. "Women like me? Women who wear department store coats to billionaire problems." A few employees went very still. Claire folded her hands. "Vanessa, yesterday you financed your lover with fake invoices, tried to hide money through your foundation, and brought your brother into a fraud network that may trigger federal reporting. Today you are critiquing wool." The silence snapped. Someone coughed to hide a laugh. Vanessa's face flushed. Claire's voice stayed mild. "If you want to insult me, choose a subject where you have leverage." Vanessa stood. "We are done here." "No," Claire said. "We are beginning." She looked at outside counsel on the screen. "Please confirm for the room that Albright Urban has issued a litigation hold, frozen disputed vendor payments, and notified its primary bank of suspected internal fraud." The attorney nodded. "Confirmed." Claire looked at Evan. "Please confirm that you have surrendered all finance credentials pending review." Evan's jaw locked. "This is outrageous. That is not confirmation." Dominic turned to him. Evan looked at his sister. Vanessa's face had gone pale beneath the makeup. Finally, he said, "I will cooperate pending counsel." "Good," Claire said. "That is the first useful sentence today." Vanessa gathered her coat. As she passed Claire, she bent close enough for only her to hear. "Martin told me you were easy to break." Claire looked up. For 1 second, the professional mask thinned, not shattered. Thinned enough for Vanessa to see the anger beneath it, bright and contained. "Martin also told me he loved me," Claire said. "You should be more selective with your sources." Vanessa left first. Evan followed. The attorneys followed faster. When the door closed, the conference room remained silent until Marion Price, the executive assistant, stepped away from the wall. "Mrs. Albright?" Claire looked at her. "Yes." Marion held out a small black notebook. Vanessa kept a second calendar. Private lunches, off-site meetings, vendor calls. I made copies after she asked me to delete invitations last year. Dominic stared at her. "Why didn't you tell me?" Marion's face tightened. "Because she said if I embarrassed her, she would make sure my son lost his internship and my mortgage refinance disappeared. She had that kind of reach here." Claire took the notebook gently. "You are telling us now." Marion's eyes shone, but she did not cry. Because for the first time in 3 years she looked scared. Claire opened the notebook. Names, dates, restaurants, vendor codes, initials. One set of initials appeared again and again beside Martin's. E.K. Evan Rourke. Claire looked at Dominic. "Now the drawer is locked. Chapter 4 by Friday. The fraud map covered an entire glass wall." Claire hated messy visuals, but this case required scale. Names, entities, dates, project codes, account numbers, invoice descriptions, approvals, reversals, offshore transfers, family connections, false deliverables, and personal expenses all spread across the conference room in neat rows of color-coded notes. At the center were 4 names: Vanessa Albright, Martin Keller, Evan Rourke. Silverline Strategy. Dominic stood in the doorway for a full minute before speaking. "It looks like a murder board." "It is. The victim is cash flow." Claire was running on coffee, evidence, and the sharp satisfaction of watching lies become visible. Her hair was pinned badly. Her eyes were tired. Her black blazer had been draped over a chair for 6 hours. She had never looked less like Vanessa Albright. She had never felt more dangerous. "Tell me what we have," Dominic said. Claire picked up a marker. 16 months. Total suspicious disbursements currently at 4.8 million. Confirmed fraudulent disbursements, 2.7. Probable, 1.3. Unknown, 800,000. Recipients? Silverline Strategy, controlled by Martin. Keystone Civic Advisory, controlled by Evan's former roommate. 2 charitable pass-throughs connected to Vanessa's foundation. 1 Tennessee equipment leasing entity, registered under Martin's uncle, likely without meaningful operations. Personal spending? Vanessa used foundation-linked funds for jewelry, travel, apartment rentals, and payments to Martin disguised as brand consulting. Martin used incoming funds to cover business debt, personal credit cards, and a down payment on a lake house. Dominic's face changed. A lake house? Door County, purchased under an LLC 2 months ago. With my company's money. With stolen company money. He stepped farther into the room. And Evan? Approvals, concealment, payment routing, and at least 1 attempted deletion after the litigation hold. Dominic looked toward the window. Below them, the Chicago River moved gray and indifferent between towers. "I made him CFO because Vanessa asked," he said. Claire capped the marker. "That sentence will haunt you, but it is not evidence of guilt. It is evidence of stupidity. Stupidity is expensive. Fraud is chargeable. Stay focused." Dominic looked back at her. "Do you ever soften anything?" "I married a stranger yesterday to obtain forensic standing after my husband stole my savings for his mistress. Softness is on limited hours." He absorbed that without defensiveness. Fair. At noon, the first investor called. Her name was Meredith Valle, a private equity partner with 28% exposure to Albright Urban's latest development fund. Meredith was precise, impatient, and uninterested in theater. "Dominic," she said over video, "I am receiving extremely unpleasant calls from Vanessa." Dominic sat beside Claire in the conference room. "What is she saying?" "That you have suffered a personal breakdown, married an unstable accountant, and handed financial controls to a woman seeking revenge against her own ex-husband." Claire smiled faintly. "Unstable accountant is new." Meredith's eyes moved to her. "You must be Claire." "I am." "Are you unstable?" "Not in ways relevant to the ledger. Meredith's mouth twitched. Dominic did not smile, but Claire sensed he wanted to. Meredith leaned forward. Vanessa is calling for an emergency investor review Monday morning. She claims your crisis controls are illegal and that Dominic is exposing the company to reputational damage. Good, Claire said. Dominic turned to her. Good? Yes. She is moving before she knows what we have. That means she is afraid we have enough. Meredith studied her. Do you? Claire shared a locked folder through the secure portal. You now have a summary of confirmed fraudulent transactions, bank hold notices, litigation hold confirmation, and a draft IRS criminal referral. I will send the full packet once counsel clears distribution. Meredith opened the first page. 30 seconds passed. Then 60. Her expression hardened. This is real. Yes, Claire said. And Vanessa is implicated directly. Yes. Evan? He is worse than he believes we know. Meredith looked at Dominic. I will not support Vanessa's review. Thank you, Dominic said. Do not thank me. Clean the company. The call ended. Dominic sat back. One down. How many do we need? 2 of 3 major outside investors to block Vanessa. Who is hardest? Arthur Baines. Claire had already read the file. Arthur Baines was 70, old Chicago money, close to Vanessa's late father, and sentimental in exactly the way financial predators preferred. He thinks of Vanessa as family, Dominic said. Then we show him what family did. Arthur agreed to meet at 4 at his club, a walnut-paneled room where oil portraits stared down at people who believed consequences were for other neighborhoods. Claire wore the same black dress from the courthouse under a clean blazer Marion had quietly sent out for pressing. Dominic offered to come. Claire refused. He will perform loyalty at you, she said. At me, he will perform superiority. That is easier to use. Arthur Baines received her with a frown. Mrs. Albright, he said, as if the name tasted temporary. Mr. Baines. I have known Vanessa since she was a child. I know. Then you understand why I find this circus distasteful. Claire sat without being invited. Fraud often becomes distasteful when family is involved. His eyes narrowed. Young lady, I have no intention of being lectured by a woman who married Dominic Albright yesterday. Claire opened her folder and placed 1 page in front of him. Then I will be brief. Arthur looked down. What is this? A draft referral summary to federal investigators. Your name appears in the background section because Vanessa requested that you support her emergency review while she had direct knowledge of disputed transfers. If you attend and vote for her proposal after receiving this notice, your fund may be asked why you supported operational disruption during an active financial crimes review. Arthur went very still. Is that a threat? No. It is disclosure. You people always hide threats under professional language. No, Claire said. Professional language is what happens when the facts are worse than threats. He read the page. The room's clock ticked too loudly. Finally, he removed his glasses. Vanessa would not do this. Claire placed 3 more pages on the table. She already did. He read the wire summary. Then the fake invoice. Then the calendar entry from Marion's notebook placing Vanessa, Martin, and Evan together 2 days before the first Silverline payment. Something in his face sagged. Not just belief. Embarrassment. Her father would be ashamed, he said. Claire did not soften the blow. Then, do not help her make it worse. Arthur closed the folder. I will not attend Monday's review. Thank you. Do not thank me, he said, echoing Meredith without knowing it. Clean the company. When Claire returned to Albright Tower, Dominic was waiting in the lobby. Well? Arthur will not attend. Dominic let out a breath. You convinced him. No. The documents did. Documents do not walk into clubs alone. Claire looked at him. It was the closest thing to praise she had accepted in weeks. She looked away first. Do not get sentimental. We still need to file the referral. Claire. She paused. What? You are very good at this. For reasons she did not care to examine, that simple sentence hit harder than it should have. Martin had called her obsessive when she worked late. He had joked that she could ruin a vacation by noticing a wrong receipt. He had used her trust, then insulted the very mind he had failed to outsmart. Dominic's compliment contained no charm. No manipulation. No warmth even. Not exactly. Just recognition. Claire swallowed. I know, she said. But her voice was softer than intended. Chapter 5, Vanessa's emergency review, collapsed before it began. No quorum. No investor support. No room full of loyalists waiting to rescue her. At 9:12 Monday morning, her attorney sent a letter withdrawing the request and accusing Dominic of marital retaliation, corporate overreach, and reputational violence. Claire read the phrase twice. Reputational violence, she said. Dominic looked up from across the conference table. Is that a legal term? No. It is what guilty rich people call evidence. At 10:30, Evan Rourke resigned. At 10:41, IT confirmed he had attempted to export archived payment logs to a personal drive 6 minutes before submitting his resignation. At 10:47, Claire handed the incident report to outside counsel. At 11:03, the company's bank froze all accounts tied to Silverline, Keystone, and the Florida Holding Company, pending investigation. At 11:22, Martin Keller began calling Claire again. She ignored the first 5 calls. She answered the 6th. You need to listen to me, Martin said. He sounded bad. Not sad. Bad. Stripped down, sweating through the phone. I am listening. Vanessa is trying to put everything on me. She should be more original. Claire, I am serious. She called me this morning. She said I designed Silverline, I forged invoices, I manipulated her signatory access. She says I used her. Did you? No. I mean, not like that. We both knew what was happening. Claire closed her eyes briefly. There it was. The first crack. Dominic watched her from the other side of the room, reading her face. Martin, Claire said. Where are you? Why? Because if you are ready to be useful, you should not say the rest on the phone. They met at a coffee shop in Evanston 2 hours later. Claire did not go alone. Julian Hart, the independent attorney she had retained with Dominic's funding, sat at the next table with a newspaper open and a recording consent form in his briefcase. Martin looked smaller than he had in the restaurant. His beard was untrimmed, his eyes bloodshot, his shirt wrinkled under a coat he had not buttoned properly. When Claire sat across from him, he looked at her left hand. The plain gold wedding band from the courthouse was still there. His mouth twisted. Do you sleep with him? Claire stared at him. That is the question you chose? Shame flashed across his face, then anger covered it. You married him the day after our divorce. You stole from me before ours. I was desperate. You were greedy. He flinched. The waitress came by. Claire ordered tea. Martin ordered nothing. Start talking, she said. He rubbed his hands together. Vanessa started it. Try again. She did. She found out I had access to small business vendor networks. She said Albright had old systems, old approvals, and Dominic trusted her too much to look closely. At first it was supposed to be temporary. She said she needed liquid cash because Dominic had frozen parts of their marital spending during their separation. Were they separated? Not officially. So she lied. Yes. Continue. Martin swallowed. I set up Silverline. She approved the first invoices. Evan helped route them. Then it got bigger. She wanted the apartment, the jewelry, the campaign consultant. She said if Dominic could spend millions on buildings, she could take something back. And you? His jaw worked. I had debts. Because I borrowed against the business after the divorce filing. I thought I would get the house free and clear, sell it, and cover the bridge loans. Claire felt nothing for a moment. It was almost peaceful. He had not only taken the house, he had already planned how to liquidate it. You tricked me into signing the postnup because you needed collateral. Martin's eyes dropped. I told myself you would land on your feet. You emptied the floor first. He looked up, eyes wet now. Claire, I know what I did. But Vanessa is going to bury me. Good, he recoiled. She leaned forward. Not because I want you buried, because fear is the first honest thing I have heard from you in months. Julian approached and placed the consent form on the table. Martin stared at him. Who is this? My lawyer, Claire said. You are going to give a recorded statement. You are going to identify every account, every invoice, every person involved. You are going to authorize retrieval of any backup documents. In exchange, Julian will communicate your cooperation to investigators when charges come. Martin's face went gray. Charges. Yes. Can you stop them? No. Can Dominic? No. Then why would I help? Claire looked at the man she had loved long enough to become vulnerable to his worst idea. Because it is the only thing left that makes you less useless. The cruelty of that sentence surprised even her. Martin stared at her. Then, slowly, he nodded. There is a drive, he whispered. Julian sat. Claire did not move. Where? My sister's storage unit, in Milwaukee. She thinks it has old tax files. It has everything. Vanessa made me keep backups because she did not trust Evan. What kind of everything? Invoices, texts, transfer confirmations, foundation reimbursements, offshore account instructions, the lake house documents. Recordings too. Claire's pulse changed. Recordings? Martin looked at the table. Vanessa liked insurance. Julian slid the consent form closer. Sign. Martin signed. By evening, the drive was in Julian's custody. By midnight, Claire had reviewed enough to know the case had changed from strong to devastating. Vanessa had recorded herself describing the scheme, insulting Dominic's trust, mocking Claire's stolen savings, and calling Martin the perfect little laundromat with a wife too sentimental to audit him. Claire listened to that line once. Then she took off the headphones. Dominic stood across the office, expression unreadable. You do not have to keep listening tonight, he said. Yes, I do. Why? Because I need to hear exactly how small she thought I was. Dominic's voice lowered. You are not small. Claire looked at him. There was no charm in his face, no attempt to soften the room. Just certainty. Her throat tightened. I know. This time, she almost believed it. Chapter 6. The arrests began on a Wednesday. Evan Rourke first outside his condo parking garage trying to leave with 2 suitcases and a passport he claimed was for a business trip. Paula Stein second, after investigators confirmed she had altered invoice metadata after the litigation hold. Martin third, voluntarily, with Julian beside him and a signed cooperation agreement in his hand. Vanessa last. She made the mistake of attending a charity luncheon. Perhaps she believed wealth could delay handcuffs if enough women in pearls were watching. Perhaps she wanted one more photograph in society pages before reality arrived. Perhaps she could not imagine any room where she was not protected by lighting. The luncheon was at the Palmer House Ballroom, a fundraiser for children's arts education. Vanessa wore pale blue, diamonds, and a smile so serene that several women later told reporters they thought the officers were part of a security detail. Then one officer touched her elbow. Her smile vanished. By noon, the footage was everywhere. Vanessa Albright escorted from charity luncheon amid federal fraud investigation. Claire did not watch the video at first. She was in Dominic's office, finalizing the investor packet, when Marion's phone buzzed 3 times in a row. Marion looked at the screen. It happened. Dominic did not move. Claire kept typing. Send me the charging document when it posts. Marion hesitated. You do not want to see? Claire stopped. For 16 months, Vanessa had stolen from Dominic, funded Martin, helped strip Claire's savings, mocked her marriage, threatened employees, and tried to hide behind taste, bloodlines, and public pity. Claire thought watching her escorted out would feel satisfying. Maybe it would later. At that moment, it felt like another transaction closing. No, she said. I want the filing. Dominic watched her carefully. You are allowed to feel good. I know. Do you? She looked at him. I will feel good when the restitution schedule is enforceable. His mouth shifted almost into a smile. That may be the least romantic sentence ever spoken in my office. We are not romantic. No? The air changed. Claire looked back at her screen too quickly. They had been married for 3 weeks. On paper, it was still tactical. Separate bedrooms in Dominic's penthouse. Separate bank accounts. Separate attorneys. A written agreement so clean Claire had respected it before she respected the man. But there were details now. Dominic leaving coffee on her desk without interrupting. Dominic asking her opinion before investors, not after. Dominic never once telling her to calm down. Dominic standing silently behind her in meetings, not to control her, but to make sure the room understood he would not allow anyone to dismiss her. That kind of respect was dangerous. It did not arrive with flowers. It rewired the body slowly. Martin had made love feel like something she had to prove she deserved. Dominic made competence feel visible. Claire did not know what to do with that. So she worked. The federal indictment listed wire fraud, conspiracy, money laundering, tax evasion, obstruction, and false records. Vanessa pleaded not guilty. Evan pleaded not guilty. Paula negotiated. Martin cooperated fully, producing the storage drive and giving testimony that prosecutors later described as unusually detailed. Albright Urban survived the scandal because Claire moved faster than rumor. She froze suspect accounts before the bank panicked. She briefed investors before Vanessa could poison them. She replaced vendor approval chains, rebuilt procurement controls, removed related party access, and published an internal ethics reporting system that employees actually trusted, because the first person protected under it was Marion Price. 3 employees resigned. 6 were promoted. 4 vendors were terminated. 2 major projects were delayed. The company did not collapse. That irritated Vanessa more than any arrest photo. Her attorney filed a motion accusing Dominic and Claire of weaponizing marriage to seize marital property. Claire read it over lunch and marked 7 factual errors in red pen before sending it to counsel. Dominic found her laughing quietly at her desk. What? Vanessa says our marriage is fraudulent. It was tactical. That is not the same thing. He leaned against the doorway. Is it not? Claire's pen stopped. She looked up. His expression was calm, but there was something under it now. Not pressure, not demand. A question he had refused to ask until she could answer without owing him. Dominic, she said. Yes. Do not make this complicated. It already is. It was supposed to end when the work ended, and has the work ended? The emergency phase has. Then perhaps we should discuss the non-emergency phase. Claire looked down at the motion. You need a permanent CFO. I know. You should hire one. I intend to. She looked at him sharply. He held her gaze. You. The room went very still. Claire's first instinct was to refuse, before the offer could become emotional. Refusal was clean. Boundaries were clean. Contracts were clean. But Dominic did not move closer. He did not soften his voice into persuasion. He simply waited, giving her the dignity of an actual choice. You want your tactical wife to become your CFO, she said. I want the most capable forensic finance professional I have ever met to become my CFO. And the wife part? His eyes did not leave hers. I would like that to become a question we answer honestly, not a document we hide behind. Claire inhaled. The answer rose too quickly, which frightened her. I need time. Take it. I need independent counsel to review the employment terms. Of course. I need my own apartment. Something flickered in his face, but he nodded. You should have one, and I need you to understand that if I stay, it cannot be because you rescued me. Dominic's expression sharpened with something close to offense. Claire, I did not rescue you. I opened a door and got out of your way. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked back at the documents, because if she looked too long she might cry, and she hated crying in offices. "Send me the CFO offer," she said. Dominic nodded. "Today." Dominic. "Yes?" "Make it generous. I am expensive now." This time he did smile. "I noticed." Chapter 7 Vanessa's trial became a spectacle, because she could not resist giving it one. She arrived each morning in quiet luxury, as if Kashmir could argue intent. Her legal team framed her as an abandoned wife, manipulated by Martin, misunderstood by Dominic, targeted by Claire, and overwhelmed by financial systems she no longer controlled. That defense lasted until the recordings. On the fourth day, prosecutors played Vanessa's own voice in the courtroom. Claire sat behind Dominic, hands folded, face calm. Vanessa's recorded laugh filled the room. Martin is useful because Claire signs whatever he puts in front of her. Sentimental women are the easiest kind of bank. The courtroom went silent. Claire felt Dominic turn slightly toward her, but she kept her eyes on the witness stand. Martin sat there in a plain suit, thinner than before, answering questions with the deadened honesty of a man who had run out of exits. Vanessa did not look at him. She looked at Claire. For 1 second, the courtroom disappeared. There was only the woman who had mocked her grief, and the woman who had turned that mockery into evidence. Claire did not smile. That would have given Vanessa too much. She simply held her gaze until Vanessa looked away. The verdict came after 2 days of deliberation. Guilty on all major counts. Evan took a plea before his second week of trial. Paula received reduced charges for cooperation. Martin received a reduced sentence after returning records, authorizing asset recovery, and testifying against Vanessa and Evan. Claire visited Martin once before sentencing. Not in prison. In a federal interview room, with beige walls, a scratch table, and a guard outside the door. Julian came with her. Martin stood when she entered. He looked older. Shame had removed something performative from his face. "Claire," he said. "Sit." He sat. She placed a civil settlement document on the table. "This finalizes restitution assignment from the recovered lake house proceeds, the business equipment liquidation, and your remaining receivables. My stolen savings are included in the recovery claim." He stared at the document. "You got it back?" "Most of it. The rest will come from the schedule." "Good." She looked at him. He seemed to mean it. That almost hurt more than if he had not. "Why did you come?" he asked. "To close the file." He nodded slowly. "You always needed things balanced." "Yes." "I am sorry." Claire waited. This time Martin did not rush to decorate the apology. "I am sorry I tricked you. I am sorry I used your trust. I am sorry I stole money you worked for and called it survival. I am sorry I let Vanessa laugh at you when I knew you were the only reason I had ever stayed afloat." The room was quiet. Claire had imagined this apology for months in different forms. Sometimes he cried, sometimes he begged, sometimes she gave a speech so perfect it cut him open. Reality was smaller. A tired man. A table. A document. A truth too late to repair anything. "Thank you for saying it correctly," she said. His eyes reddened. "Can you ever forgive me?" Claire gathered her folder. "I can stop carrying you." He closed his eyes. It was not the answer he wanted. It was the only honest one. Outside the federal building, March wind moved cold between the towers. Claire stood on the steps for a moment, breathing in air that did not belong to courtrooms or conference rooms or restaurants where husbands touched other men's wives. Dominic's car waited at the curb. He was inside, not on the phone, not reading, simply waiting. When she got in, he did not ask if she was all right. He asked, "Is the file closed?" Claire looked at him. Then she laughed. It came out unexpectedly, bright and exhausted. "That is the most romantic thing you could have said." Dominic's mouth curved. "I am learning." The CFO appointment became official 2 weeks later. The board vote was unanimous. Claire's employment contract was reviewed by independent counsel, revised twice, and signed in blue ink because she liked originals. Her compensation was generous. Her authority was explicit. Her exit rights were clean. Dominic did not comment on any of this, except to say, "Good." The marriage contract remained in a drawer. For 3 months, neither of them filed to dissolve it. Claire moved into her own apartment, overlooking the river. Dominic helped carry one box, complained that accountants owned too many books, and left before dinner because she asked him to. The next night, he sent Thai food. No note. Just the dish she ordered when she forgot to eat. She called him. "Are you feeding your CFO or your wife? Both are underperforming in basic nutrition." "Careful. Always." She looked out at the river, smiling despite herself. "Thank you. Eat." He hung up before the moment could become too soft. That was how it grew. Not dramatically, not like a rescue, like two people who had seen the worst of each other's lives and chose not to use it as leverage. Chapter 8, the Albright annual investor meeting took place 6 months after the arrests. It was held in the same ballroom where Vanessa had once hosted charity dinners as the graceful public face of the company. Claire knew because Marion showed her old photos while they prepared the seating chart. Vanessa, in emerald satin beside Dominic. Vanessa laughing with Meredith Vale. Vanessa holding a microphone under soft gold lights, praising integrity and community investment, while fake invoices moved through company accounts upstairs. Claire looked at the photo for a long moment. "Use the same room," she said. Marion's eyebrows rose. "Are you sure?" "Yes. May I ask why?" "Because rooms should learn new stories." The meeting drew investors, press, project partners, and employees. Not because annual reports were exciting, but because scandal had made recovery interesting. People wanted to see whether Albright Urban looked wounded. Dominic opened with numbers. Clean, concise, unsentimental. Delayed projects stabilized. Vendor controls rebuilt. Investor exposure reduced. Restitution claims active. Compliance systems independently audited. 3 developments ahead of revised schedule. Then he stepped aside. "Our chief financial officer will present the recovery and governance report." Claire walked to the podium. She wore a navy suit, simple earrings, and no wedding ring visible under the lights. Not because she was hiding it, because the room did not need to know everything to understand enough. The audience watched her with the sharp curiosity reserved for women who enter scandals as footnotes and leave as decision makers. Claire placed her notes down. 6 months ago, Albright Urban Group discovered a coordinated fraud network operating through false vendors, abused legacy access, and personal relationships that should never have replaced controls. The room was silent. The company did not survive because betrayal was small. It survived because the response was immediate, documented, and independent. She clicked to the first slide. No dramatic language, no gossip. Numbers, recovered funds, frozen assets, rebuilt controls, external audit findings, whistleblower protections, leadership changes, project impacts, restitution timeline. By the end, even the reporters had stopped waiting for scandal quotes and started writing down figures. Then Claire paused. "There is one more matter." Dominic looked at her from the side of the stage. This was not in the rehearsal. Claire continued. "Financial fraud does not begin with spreadsheets. It begins when people believe trust means no one will check. It begins when a name, a marriage, a family connection, or a polished public image is allowed to replace evidence." She looked across the room. "I learned that lesson personally before I learned it professionally." No one moved. This company will never again ask employees to choose between silence and survival. Today, Albright Urban is funding an independent employee legal assistance program and a financial recovery grant for spouses affected by economic deception, coerced debt, and marital fraud. Dominic's expression changed. Not surprise, exactly. Recognition. Claire had used her own signing bonus to start the fund. The board had matched it. Dominic, she now saw, had matched the entire board contribution anonymously. Of course he had. She finished without looking at him. Numbers tell stories, but people decide whether those stories become cages or exits. Our work is to make sure the truth has a door. The applause began slowly, then rose. Not the hungry applause of scandal. The steadier kind. Respect. After the meeting, Meredith Vale approached Claire near the side entrance. "You have changed the company," Meredith said. "The controls changed the company." "No. Controls are tools. Someone has to make powerful people tolerate them." Claire accepted that with a nod. Arthur Baines came next, looking older and less certain than he had in his club. "Mrs. Albright," he said. "Mr. Baines, Vanessa's father was a friend of mine. I let that history cloud my judgment." "Yes." He blinked at the directness, then gave a short laugh. "Dominic chose well." Claire looked toward Dominic across the ballroom. He was speaking with a project partner, serious and composed. As if he felt her gaze, he looked up. Their eyes met. This time, neither looked away quickly. Arthur followed her glance. "Not just in finance, I suspect." Claire turned back. "That is outside the scope of the meeting." "Of course," Arthur said, smiling faintly. "Forgive an old man his pattern recognition." That evening, after the last guests left, Claire found Dominic alone in the empty ballroom. He stood near the stage, looking at the rows of chairs. "You added the grant," he said. "Yes." "You used your signing bonus. You matched it." "Yes." "That was not in the board packet." "Neither was your announcement." She stood beside him. For a while, they looked at the room where Vanessa had once performed virtue. "You said rooms should learn new stories," Dominic said. Claire glanced at him. "Marion told you?" "Marion tells me whatever she thinks I deserve to know. Smart woman. Very." He turned slightly toward her. "Claire, yes. I do not want to dissolve the marriage." The words settled between them, quiet and enormous. She looked at the stage. "Because of the company?" "No." "Because of optics?" "No." "Because you are used to me?" "No." "Then say it cleanly." He took a breath. Dominic Albright, who could negotiate land purchases with governors and stare down banks without blinking, looked almost uncertain. "Because I love you," he said. "Not because you saved my company, not because you are useful. Because when you are in a room, I trust the room more. Because you make truth feel less like a weapon and more like architecture. Because I want to come home and find your shoes by the door, your ledgers on the table, and your terrible cold coffee abandoned in every room." Claire stared at him. "My coffee is not terrible. It is always cold." "That is a timing issue. It is a lifestyle." She laughed, and the sound shook something loose in her chest. Then tears came, sudden and infuriating. Dominic did not reach for her immediately. He waited. That was the thing that undid her. Martin had touched to claim, to soothe himself, to control the temperature of a room. Dominic waited until her nod gave him permission. Then he held her. No cameras, no contracts, no tactical reason, just two people in a room that had learned a new story. "I am afraid," Claire said against his jacket. "I know. I do not want to be foolish again." "Then we will be careful." "Love is not careful. Ours can be." She pulled back enough to look at him. "That sounds like something a developer would say." "Foundations matter." She groaned softly. "That was awful. Accurate." She wiped her face with the heel of her hand. "I love you too." His expression changed completely. Not dramatically, not theatrically, like a locked building opening all its lights at once. Claire had thought joy would feel wild if it ever returned. Instead, it felt steady. Like a number, finally balancing. Chapter 9. A year after the restaurant, Claire returned to Allard's. Not for surveillance. For dinner. The corner booth was still there, half hidden behind ivy, with a clear sightline to the room. The fireplace was lit. The tables were full of people betraying no one in particular, or at least doing it less visibly. Dominic noticed where she was looking. "We can leave." "No." "We can sit somewhere else." "No." The host led them to the corner booth because Claire had requested it. She sat where she had sat the night she watched Martin kiss Vanessa. This time, Dominic sat across from her by invitation, not strategy. He ordered wine. Claire ordered sparkling water because she still preferred to keep her head clear in meaningful rooms. For a while, they read menus in comfortable silence. Then Claire looked toward the fireplace. I thought I was coming here that night to watch the end of my life. Dominic set down his menu. What did you find instead? A very severe man with a manila envelope. That sounds unpleasant. It was. You were rude. You were hiding behind a plant. I was gathering evidence. You looked murderous. That was also evidence. He smiled. The waiter came and went. Claire folded her hands on the table. Martin's restitution payment cleared this morning. Dominic nodded. I know. You knew? You check company recovery accounts at 6:15 every morning. I receive the same reports at 6:20. Of course you do. The personal recovery? Cleared too. Dominic watched her. How does it feel? Claire considered lying with something simple. Good. Finished. Clean. But Dominic had earned better than simple. Strange, she said. I wanted the money back because it represented what he took. Now that it is back, I realize what he took was not money. It was the version of me who believed trust did not require verification. Do you miss her? Sometimes. Why? She was softer. Dominic reached across the table, palm up, not taking her hand, until she placed it in his. She was not better. Claire looked down at their hands. Her new wedding ring was different from the courthouse band. Simple gold, still plain, but chosen on a quiet Sunday after breakfast when neither of them was running from lawyers. No, Claire said. Not better, just earlier. The waiter poured wine for Dominic and water for Claire. Across the restaurant, a woman laughed near the fireplace. The sound did not hurt. That surprised Claire. Healing, she had learned, did not erase the room. It changed where you sat in it. After dinner, they walked outside into the cold. Chicago glittered along the river. Hard and beautiful. All sharp edges and reflected light. Claire paused by the window. In the glass, she could see herself clearly. Not the discarded wife, not the temporary spouse, not the accountant used as a legal instrument. Claire Albright, CFO, fraud hunter, wife by choice. Woman who had lost everything she was afraid to lose and found that her mind still worked, her spine still held, and her future had not ended because a weak man mishandled her trust. Dominic stood beside her. What are you thinking? She looked at his reflection. That I used to believe being loved meant being safe. And now? Now I think safety begins with being able to leave, tell the truth, and still recognize yourself afterward. He nodded slowly. That is not as catchy as a wedding vow. It is more enforceable. Naturally. She smiled. They began walking toward the car. At the corner, Claire's phone buzzed. A message from Marion. The first recipient of the financial recovery grant had signed her lease. A woman with 2 children, 1 hidden bank account, and a husband who had told her she would never survive without him. Claire read the message twice. Then she sent back, good, make sure she has a forensic review appointment before Friday. Dominic looked at her. Work? A door opening. He did not ask for more. He simply took her hand as they crossed the street. Claire thought of the woman she had been in the corner booth, cold coffee untouched, watching Betrayal by firelight. She wished she could tell that woman one thing. Not that the pain would disappear. Not that justice would be clean. Not even that love would come again in a form she could trust. She would tell her this. The life a liar steals is not the only life available. Sometimes the evidence leads to court. Sometimes it leads to freedom. And sometimes, if you are brave enough to follow the numbers all the way through the wreckage, it leads you back to yourself. Subscribe for more stories of quiet strength, hidden truth, and the moment underestimated women take back their lives.